morning. I'm pleased to declare Quinnipiac University's 2014 commencement exercises for the School of Business and School of Communications officially open. Would you please stand for the invocation, which will be delivered by Pastor Andrew Ober, Protestant chaplain.
Let us pray. Dear God, thank you for today. We invite you here and thank you for Quinnipiac, for these graduates, and for all who helped them get to this point. Allow them and us to celebrate today the blessings of education and remember the responsibility it bestows. Today, remind them of their callings, provide them with new wisdom, and renew in them a passion for their vocations. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Please be seated. I'd like to acknowledge the platform party, which includes trustees, university administrators, university clergy, and deans. It is now my honor to present Dr. John L. Leahy, President of Quinnipiac University, who will bring you greetings on behalf of the university community.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to all of you on this joyous occasion. To our graduates, the class of 2014, I want to add a special welcome and my heartiest congratulations to each and every one of you. During your years at Quinnipiac, you have made all of us very proud. And the class of 2014 is without question one of the very best in Quinnipiac's history. Maybe the best in Quinnipiac history, I should say. Today's graduates have achieved a level of maturity, motivation, and wisdom to flourish in our ever-changing world. This year's class of 2014 marks the 50th anniversary of 1964, a significant year of change in many respects. Quinnipiac has changed. 50 years ago, the Quinnipiac class of 1964 had 124 graduates with bachelor's degrees, and roughly 15% of those were awarded to women. Today's class of 2014 has 1,500 graduates, and more than 60% of the graduates today are women. That's our best hope for the future. Our country has changed as well. 50 years ago, there were white-only water fountains and restaurants counters in America. And in 1964, Congress passed the landmark Civil Rights Act to end these discriminatory practices. And today, we have an African-American president in the White House. And the dominant immigrant groups in America have changed, from Italian, German, and Irish back in 1964, replaced by the new immigrants today from Latin America, Asia, and Eastern Europe. And certainly the world has changed dramatically during the past 50 years. In 1964, the World's Fair was held in Flushing Meadow, Queens, in New York. That was the one place where you could go to see distant cultures and new inventions. Today, you can access all of those things on your iPhones and travel the world with ease, as most of our graduates here today have already done. And because the world is changing, so too is what you need to learn and know. In 1964, Quinnipiac offered only 3 areas of study for the bachelor's degree: accounting, business administration, and medical technology. It's rather telling that we now offer more than 50 areas of study across our 8 schools and colleges. But even though the world is changing every day, the one thing that hasn't changed is the quality of education students receive here at Quinnipiac University. In your time here, I'm sure you've been helped and supported by many people. You'll probably forget what I've said here today, which is just fine. But don't forget to thank your families. Don't forget to thank the faculty who inspired you, or pushed you, or taught you more than you realized at the time. Class of 2014, please rise and express your appreciation to the faculty in front of you and your parents and families behind you. During your years at Quinnipiac, you have certainly left your mark, and for that we thank you. And I predict that you will leave an even greater mark on the world that awaits you. Again, my congratulations and best wishes to each and every one of you.
I now ask Steve Forbes, Robert Porter, and John Leahy to come forward for the conferral of the honorary degree.
Steve Forbes, your strong belief in the American dream and economic freedom has shaped your career. As chairman and editor-in-chief of Forbes Media, you share your wisdom and keen insights with countless readers. Your flagship publication, Forbes magazine, is one of the world's most successful business magazines. Through your leadership, the Forbes name is known and respected worldwide. Forbes reaches more than 5 million readers here and abroad, and many more on the website. The Forbes tagline, "With all thy getting, get understanding," originated with your grandfather, B.C. Forbes. The biblical reference from Proverbs alludes to the fact that wisdom and good judgment are the most valuable things one can acquire. Your long-standing belief in capitalism, free markets, and a flat tax have been the cornerstone of your writing and political campaigns. Your wealth of knowledge on key economic issues, from medical savings accounts and Social Security to homeschooling and fiscal policy, has made you an internationally respected authority in the fields of economics and corporate leadership. In recognition of your commitment to the sharing of financial knowledge and your devotion to the field of publishing, Quinnipiac University is pleased to confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters this 18th day of May, 2014.
By the power vested in me by the Board of Trustees, I hereby confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters, honoris causa, with all the rights and privileges pertaining thereto. Congratulations, Steve.
It's now my pleasure to introduce our commencement speaker, Steve Forbes.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you very much, Dr. Porter. Thank all of you. You're about to get your degrees. It is, and I'm one of the barriers remaining. We have this tradition in education that before you can finally get your degrees, you must undergo a commencement speech full of forgettable cliches and observations. But it's your final burden. See it as a test of character, and we'll all get through this. It is a great honor to get the honorary degree. Didn't deserve it, but makes me appreciate it even more. It reminds me of the story of the University of Kentucky. They once had a tradition where the senior class could choose one of the recipients of an honorary degree. And the story goes that one year they voted to confer it on the horse that won the Kentucky Derby. And the surprised faculty asked, "Why would you confer a degree on the horse?" And the students replied, "Well, for once, we want to make sure the whole horse gets to the degree rather than the wrong end." So just leave it at that. But let me make just a few observations. Remember, this is just a test of character. And one is about the economy. We hear a lot about the so-called new normal, higher unemployment, low growth, and the like. that this is our fate forever. That is nonsense. We've had terrible periods in the past, the 1930s, horrible period, nearly lost civilization. 1970s, a terrible decade. But this country rebounded, and we're going to rebound again. Several things hold us back, but they're undergoing change, even though you'd never know it from all the noise from Washington. One is the area of taxes. I don't have to tell you what a horrible tax code we have. Lincoln defined the character of the American nation in the Gettysburg Address, 272 words. America's Declaration of Independence, 1,300 words. Constitution, all the amendments, 7,200 words. The Bible, which took centuries to put together, 773,000 words. The American Tax Code, all the attendant rules and regulations, not just the code itself, 9 million words and rising. And nobody knows what's in it. The IRS doesn't know what's in it, which is why a fourth of the time you call the hotline, they give you the wrong answer. You don't have to go to the Amazon to find exotic creatures. Just look in the tax code, crawling with them. But there's a consensus, and last year we spent 6 billion hours filling out tax forms. What a waste of brain power. So that's going to change. I'd probably take 2 or 3 or 4 years, but a consensus is growing that this thing is a terrible burden, terrible waste of brain power. And even if people do nothing with all the free time they have, when we get a new simplified code, it'll be better for everyone. You'll be in a better mood. The house pet will be in better condition when tax time comes around. Everyone will be happy. That is beginning to happen. Consensus is beginning to emerge. Another area that has been holding us back is the whole area of health care. Just quick and simple, ask yourselves, why do we have a crisis in health care? It's not the quality overall in this country. People say, well, with people like me, we're getting older, we want more of it, can't afford it, becomes more expensive, we got a big problem. But ask yourselves this, and you'll appreciate this more than most, is why is the demand for health care seen as a crisis, whereas the demand for anything else in this economy is seen as an opportunity? People want more apps. A lot of writers glad to help you out. You want more cars. Manufacturers in Detroit and elsewhere glad to help you out. Want more education. Dr. Leahy and others glad to help you out. Why in the world is demand for health care seen as a disaster, whereas everywhere else would be seen as an opportunity? And the answer is we don't have real free markets in health care. We have pieces of it, but it's a crazy system that grew up. Nobody designed it. And think of it. You know, you're probably going to celebrate tonight. Go out and have dinner. Maybe have a nice bottle of wine. Now, normally you'd want to know what the dinner's going to cost before you order something. But in healthcare, we've grown up with this system where if you go to a doctor, hospital, or clinic and ask in advance what it costs, you get a very strange look. Why do you want to know what it costs? What's it to you? And so the system goes haywire. Nobody knows what things cost. And so if you're going out for dinner, imagine if we had the same kind of system, you say, I'll have a nice bottle of wine. I don't care what it costs. Let Medicare, let health insurance, that'll figure the thing out. The thing would go haywire. But what's emerging now is not what we had before the Affordable Care Act. It's not the Affordable Care Act itself. A new system is emerging. It's going to be probably a great opportunity for you where patients are going to truly be in charge of health care for the first time in decades, where they are the real customer. You're also seeing enormous breakthroughs in terms of health care solutions in cancer. Finally, for the first time, the promise of using your body to fight the cancerous cells is now finally beginning to be realized after a lot of promise and false starts. Big things are beginning to happen. What looks like a hopeless situation in healthcare is going to turn around. You're starting to see little signs of it already. Changes in healthcare delivery. You go to drugstores now, many of them, CVS, Walgreens, and others, offering walk-in clinics, nurse practitioners. Research has shown that 80% of the time when we need medical care, we don't need a full-blown physician. Technicians can help us out. So things are changing. You see little signs of it. The flu season will be upon us in a few months once again. Now, once upon a time, you wanted a flu shot, you had to make an appointment with a doctor, go to the office, get the shot. Today, they offer them everywhere. You know, everyone offers them. You go to the gas station, say, fill her up, give me a flu shot, pay $20 for it. And so this kind of innovation is coming. Now, another one little thing to keep in track of, and I've got a book coming out on this, commercial time, but it's the whole subject of money and monetary policy. And one of the things that's held this economy back is that too often, if there are any economists here, I apologize in advance, but I'm going to say it anyway since I've already got my degree, unearned. And that is, money is simply a means of making it easier to do transactions. In the old days, you had barter. So if I sold an ad in Forbes 3,000 years ago, how would I get paid? Perhaps with a herd of goats. Let's say, and I'm being facetious here, let's say I wanted to buy iPads for our writers. So I went to the Apple store 3,000 years ago with my herd of goats. The store owner says, I don't want goats, I want sheep. So I have to figure out how to swap the goats for sheep, perhaps hire a sheep herder to make sure the wolves don't eat the sheep. Sheep herder wants to be paid in wine. I have red wine, he wants white wine. It just becomes immensely complicated with barter. Money makes transactions easier, makes investing easier, wealth creation easier. Imagine today if we still had barter. Trying to deposit a cow in an ATM just is very, very cumbersome. So whether it was coins, pieces of paper, or now ellipses on pixels on a computer, money is simply a means of making things happen. Money in and of itself, unless you have a gold coin, money in and of itself has no value. It's like a claim check at a restaurant for your coat. It's a claim on products and services created by you in the marketplace. It just makes it infinitely easier. And so when you start to muck around with money, it doesn't have a stable value, bad things happen. Monetary policy boils down to like an automobile. You can have a magnificent vehicle, but if you don't have sufficient fuel, you're going to stall the thing. Too much fuel, you flood the engine right amount, you have a chance to get ahead. Long story short, and this is not partisan, Democrats and Republicans are guilty both on this one. Started under Republicans, now going under Democrats. They started to muck around with the value of the dollar. It's like mucking around with the number of minutes in an hour. You get misdirected investment. That's why we have a punk economy today. If you can't trust the measure of value, and that's what money is, a measure of value, like a scale's a measure of weight, clock is a measure of time, rule is a measure of length, money's measure is value. It just makes transactions easier to do. And if you can't trust it, then you get less of good things happening. So investment declines. You'd think after 4,000 years we'd learn this, but we're going to relearn it again. And we're going to finally, in a few years, get a dollar that's trustworthy again. We did it for most of our history, but sometimes we go on these detours. So long story short on the economy, hang in there. It is going to get substantially better, especially in areas like healthcare. Now for a few pieces of gratuitous advice. In terms of just a heads up as you go out into the workforce, your whole life now, up to now, has been geared around schooling. Very, very structured. Everything you did, very, very structured. You knew how you were doing. You got grades. You got immediate feedback. Now when you go out in the workforce, it's a whole different environment. Whole different environment. How are you doing? You may get an annual review, but on a day-to-day basis, it's kind of amorphous. You're kind of at loose ends. Things aren't so structured anymore. One of the first things you're going to notice is you don't get much vacation time anymore. That's going to be a shock. But you're going to feel a little bit at loose ends. You'll get used to it. But don't be surprised when you go out in the workforce. You kind of feel, where am I going? How am I really doing? Is this really working out? It is normal. Now, another thing in your careers as you go ahead, just understand you will make mistakes. That's how you learn. It's not an easy thing to do. And a classic case is Steve Jobs. He had a terrible personality. If you read Isaacson's biography of him, kind of thing would make HR departments, human resource departments gag. Guy was a terrible personality, and the result was he got fired from his own company before the age of 30. But he learned. 12 years out on his own, some successes, a lot of failures. He learned how to become an effective CEO, and when he came back to Apple 12 years later, he became one of the greatest CEOs ever. But it was a painful journey. Don't be surprised you will make mistakes. It's part and parcel. Don't let it get you down. Another example, take an actor, screenwriter, director, Ben Affleck, now had a huge range of successes. In his early career, he had some successes, then he went completely off the rails. 10 years ago, if his name was attached to the movie, everyone knew it was going to be a flop. And he's asked by Barbara Walters a year ago, what would you have done differently if you could do it over again? And she expected sort of the answer, well, I would have made all these mistakes. He gave a surprise answer. He said, it was good I made those mistakes. I learned. I would not be the success I was today if I hadn't made those mistakes. Painful to go through, but see it as part of a learning process. Another thing is you're going to have to learn how to work with others. And one of the things is you get more responsibility. Even if you can do a job better than somebody who's working with you, you're going to have to learn to delegate and realize, focus on where your value added is, and don't try to do everything yourself. Another area and thing to keep in mind is the whole thing about economics. Wealth is what you're getting here today. Wealth is the human mind, not physical things like piles of gold, jewelry, or even oil. Take, for example, the natural resource oil. Oil in and of itself is glop. You can't eat it, you can't drink it, you can't feed it to camels. It's just goo. It was the human mind that turned this glop into something a modern economy can't live without. You take the modern age, the information age, the microchip based on sand. Never knew as a kid on the beach that sand could eventually bring the whole world to your fingertips with handhelds. Human mind. And a good example is Hong Kong. No natural resources, just a piece of rock real estate. Doesn't even have its own water, has to import it from the mainland China. Yet at 60 years, by unleashing the human mind under the rule of law, turned what is the poor part of the world, poor real estate, into the richest pieces of real estate in the world today. The human mind is it, and keep that in mind. Ask yourself, especially you economics majors, ask yourself, what is economics? Put aside all the equations. Economics is knowledge. Ask yourself, what is the difference between you today and those people who lived in the Stone Age, thousands and thousands of years ago? Same human body, same appetites, same earth. The difference is we know more. The way you know more is through experimentation, making those mistakes, seeing what works and what doesn't work. That's what economics boils down to. You saw it after Europe. World War II, devastated, Japan nuked. Absolute physical devastation, but knowledge was not destroyed. And because we provided security, military security, set up sensible economic system, Europe and Japan made a rapid recovery. Why? From that physical devastation, because knowledge was not lost. You see it in a little country like Israel today. Israel's been around since 1948. 65 years, 66 years since 48. Israel's population has grown tenfold. Its agricultural output 16-fold, its industrial output 50-fold. Yet with all of that, their net use of water today is 10% less than it was in 1948. Human imagination. We're not running out of resources as long as the human mind is liberated. Another thing is another thing is about success. Sometimes it's not instant. Take Dwight Eisenhower. He was in the military, wanted a career there. From the 20s and 30s, his career looked like it was a dead end. 15 years going nowhere. But he continued to hone his craft, learned more and more. And when World War II came, ultimately, he became the supreme commander of the Allied forces that defeated the Nazis in Western Europe. There are going to be periods where it looks like you're not going anywhere. But if you have your calling, stick to it. Another thing is, Yogi Berra, the great baseball player, said it's not over till it's over. And it's true. You don't have to achieve necessarily success by the time you leave here today. It can go through a lifetime. If they're nutritionists, I apologize in advance. But take Ray Kroc. He was a guy who invented McDonald's virtually, but throughout his career never really hit home. Pursued various things. So here he's in his 50s, selling milkshake machines out in California. He comes across a hamburger stand called McDonald's Brothers. See, they're doing great business. And figures if he gets these guys to expand, he can sell them more milkshake machines. Long story short, with Ray Kroc, the McDonald brothers weren't ambitious. Ray Kroc was. He bought them out, put everything on the line, and made history in a business with a high casualty rate restaurants. First throughout the U.S., out the world. Here's a guy in his 60s and 70s when most people are retired. He's just getting warmed up. It's not over till it's over. Innovation is everywhere, all around you. You go to a coffee place like a Starbucks. They have 3 size cups, 12-ounce, 16-ounce, 20-ounce. But you notice the lids are all the same size, so you don't have to have all that kind of inventory. Innovation is everywhere. And talk about Starbucks. Coffee is the most common commodity around. Anyone can make it. Everyone sells it. The airlines still serve a version of it for free. So last I looked. But how does Schultz turn this thing is coffee, common commodity, to a multi-billion-dollar global business by providing a nice atmosphere, consistency, and great marketing. I mean, you go to most fast food places, you have small, medium, large. In Starbucks land, small is large, tall. Small is tall. Little cup of coffee, tall. If you have self-esteem issues, go to Starbucks. Tall. Medium, grande. And large is venti. For a while I didn't know what venti meant, but like millions I stood in line, said venti latte, pay $50. It was amazing, high margin business. Or talk about opportunity. Take blue jeans. Anyone can buy a piece of machinery for denim and turn this stuff out, $15, $20 a copy. But somebody figured out years ago if you sewed somebody's name on the butt, like Willie Nelson, you could sell it for $50, $60. And somebody else figured out if you made these things so you can't get in them, well, you can charge $100, $150. And somebody else figured out if you made them look like they came out of a dumpster, well, that was high fashion. 300, 400, 500 stars the limit. So opportunities are out there in the most amazing places. Another thing is life is going to throw things your way, and you're going to have to draw on resources you didn't think you'd have to draw on. What's one quick example? Norman Borlaug, the man who made possible the Green Revolution that stopped the devastating famines in India and China. When he made his great breakthroughs, and he got a Nobel Prize for it, he talked about how even though he was a scientist, he had to draw on economics and politics to make this thing happen. It's not enough just to have a great idea or a great breakthrough. You have to know how to push the thing through. And he had to draw on resources, intellectual resources he never thought he'd have to draw on. So in terms of when you go forward, a lot of you are going to become parents. And a sure sign that you're a successful parent is when you become an embarrassment to your children. In conclusion, as you go out into the world, just remember this: it's not who you know, it's whom you know. So, class of 2014, congratulations, Godspeed. You've got a great journey ahead of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve. I now call upon Dr. Matthew O'Connor, Dean of the School of Business, to present School of Business candidates for degrees.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson. Will the candidates for the degree Bachelor of Science in Business Administration please approach the podium? Yep, there you go. Michael Adams. Jennifer Adler. Mario Joseph Adavasio. Lisa Alessandrello. Jordan Alexander. Elias Alexandropoulos. Ibrahim Al-Kablan. Nora Al-Shinabir. Alyssa Altman. Tyler Alway. Danielle Assalone. Emily Azalina. Matthew Baer. Jake Barnett. Andrea Barone. Jordan Bayroff. Jory Beer. Andrew Beelman. Michelle Bennett. Max Bird. Joanna Burton. Juliana Besherat. Devin Bathanis. Danielle Big. Andrew Billingsley. Antonio Blanco, Matthew Bloom, Marissa Bogris, Jacob Botte, Stephanie Boyles, Scott Bradshaw, Margaret Brown, Akash Badani, Carrie Biscaglia, Jason Cabildo, Connor Canning, Alexander Capizzello, Garrett Cardillo, Eamon Carlisle, Colin Carasquillo, James Casey, Erica Celso, Ryan Charles, Tawny Chilton, Mary Beth Chupa, Allison Clemmy, Amanda Collin, Marissa Condi, Stephanie Connolly, Megan Connolly, Amanda Cornachia, Kerrigan Cotter, Graham Covert, Michael Crisio III, Kenneth Cruzado, Michael Cusano, Ashley Sear, Evelina Chopek, Chanmani Daly, Sheila G. D'Angelo, Bianca Dawson, Jasmine DeJesus, Melissa DeMarzo, Michael DiPasquale, Matthew DeRosa, Matthew Desolitz, John DiCiani, Timothy DeMoro, William DeBorowitz, Justin DeBrennis, Lauren Doherty, Kathleen Donahue, Sean Donovan, Sarah Doors, Joseph Doyle, Emily Duval, Samantha Eames, Eric Eisenreich, Nicholas Estwan, Anthony Fabrico, Nicholas Fabrizio, Nicole Fanning, Franz Joseph Farber, Tavish Fitzpatrick, Lorenzo Fortunato, Brittany Gabrielle. What's your name? Daniel Gallagher. Morgan Gallo. Meredith Janello. Jeffrey Garibaldi. Brittany Gentile. Maria Jaimo. Thomas Gilligan, Michael Gomes, Mia Gonsalves, Kimberly Grant, Emily Greco, Caitlin Grosinger, Nicholas Garino, Lexus Garino, Paige Garal, Maxwell Haynes, Michael Hale, Sean Hanlon, Alexander Hoff, Gregory Haynes, Ashley Hayes, Joanna Hine, Kenneth Herlihy, Jennifer Hertzberg, Corey Hibbler, Samuel Hodgkinson, Joseph Hopper, Jonathan Horowitz, Kelly Hurley, Caitlin Ice, Josue Improda, Kirsten Inlaw, Christina Jastrzebski, Allison Jones, Kellen Jones, Akrit Joshi, Jason Kaufman, Patrick Kelleher, Matthew Kelly, Kathleen Kilday, Marissa King, Christina Kirley, Michelle Kirsch, Cassandra Klatskin, Christopher Koop, Douglas Kowalski, Lilia Kazook, Scott Kramer, Stephen Kuczynski, Brandon Curring, Michael Lang, Timothy Langdon, Evangelina Leparatis, Andrew Larkins, Amanda Lasala, Michael Lasco, Kellyanne Levitt, Donald Lenahan III, Robert Leo, John Leonelli, Alexander Leonard, Adam Slavkas Levitt, Matthew Lieben, Kayla Labuda, Harrison Lipsitz, Christopher Laverty, Jocelyn Locke, Irakli Lomidzi, Stephen Lopez, James Lord, Stephen Lascalzo, Courtney Lowry, Robert Luno, Marjorie Look, Katerina Lutz, Cole Mayseal Wingate, Larissa Madison, Pericles Maharis, Nishant Maney, Gregory Mullen, Mark Mannion, Kelly Martin, Zachary Martin, Stanley Martone, Justin Merrier, Christopher Massoud, Amber Maida, Anthony Joseph Matalote, Andrea Mavrogiannis, Lauren May, Marcin Mazurek, Ian McKinley, Keegan McNamara, Stephen Mcspirit, Anmal Mehta, Yashim Mamish, Daniel Mercado, Jason Mezzincello, Alexis Miller, Emily Mizowitz, Melody Moshe, Matthew Modelson, Mark Moore, Scott Matola, Zachary Mundy, Casey Monroe, Kelly Murphy, Patrick Murray, Alexandra Nardelli, Brianna Nash, Thomas Nasser, Chris Nelson, Caitlin Nazoo, Taylor Nicholson, Chanel Niles, Jonathan Nolan, Drew Olson, Matthew Pacheco, Amy Pinesco, Michael Party, Jenna Patterson, Jacqueline Pegno, Angelo Peng, John Phillip, Kyle Pliskin, Nicholas Poley, Preston Porter, Michael Powers, Caitlin Prendergast, Alexandra Pranetta, Christopher Premerano, Michael Corkwes, Christopher Quincy, Vinit Rajapathy, Elvis Rambanapasi, Kelsey Rayla, Michael Reardon Jr., Robert Racine, Caitlin Reinertson, Erica Reese, Julie Ressler, Dimitri Restaino, Carrie Richardson, Jake Reisenberg, Andrew Richardson, Kyle Reether, Brooks Robinson, Samantha Rodriguez, Victor Rosas, Bennett Rosen, Alexander Ruben Ratet, Dylan Ryan, Victoria Rezit, Daniel Salter, Harsh Zavalia, Ryan Savoca, Evan Sayre, Nicholas Kafura, Colin Schloth, Scott Schubert, Melissa Schwartz, Daniel Schwartz, Alexa Sinercia, Marilyn Cerna, Nicholas Serrano, Samantha Serrano. Kunal Suwani. Daniel Scamato. Travis Shelley. Taylor Silverstein. Shannon Smith. Matthew Spader. Matthew is the recipient of the 2014 Alumni Association Academic Achievement Award for the School of Business. Majored in finance. Upon graduation, Matthew plans to pursue a master's degree in mechanical engineering. Matthew is from Cumberland, Rhode Island, and is joined on the stage by his father, Kenneth. Congratulations, Matthew. Ryan Spagnolo. Kevin Stackpole. Alexander Stevens. James Stewart Jr. Kevin Strategos. Michael Strazula. Taylor Strode. Luis Suarez. Stephen Samakis. Tanner Tamson. Mark Talercio. Luigi Tancredo. Joseph Tanzi. Alyssa Thomas. Joseph Thomas Jr. Harold Thretz. Michaela Tinsley. Joseph Todd. Zachary Tolkinen. Lindsay Triffon. Jacqueline Tusillo. Alex Tusia. Joseph Ugaldi. Lisa Yulee. Lauren Vachon. John Veriano. Michael Vigiano. Mark Villalong Rojo. Daniel Vergone. Bianca Vitali. Vincent Vivolo. Jordan Walsh. Cameron Warner. Zachary Watkins. Aaron Weiss. Thule Weiss. Andrew Wells. Shelby Wignall. Sarah Wilbraham. Kayla Wilcox. Nalicia Williams. Sarah Yackel. Tyler Yanissi. Alexander Zaloga. Zachary Zaccoli. Will the candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Science in Business Administration please rise? Mr. President, I present to you the candidates for the degree Bachelor of Science in Business Administration.
By the power vested in me by the Board of Trustees, I hereby confer upon you the degree of Bachelor of Science with all the rights and privileges pertaining thereto. Congratulations to all of you.
You may be seated. I now call upon Lee Camlett, Dean of the School of Communications, to present School of Communications candidates for degrees.
Thank you. Good morning. On behalf of the faculty and staff of the School of Communications, welcome and congratulations to all the graduates and their families. Will the candidates for the degree Bachelor of Arts in Communications please approach the podium? Kevin Adler, Stephanie Alwart, Kimberly Anastas, Rob Atkin, Ike Azotam, Micah Bailey, Chelsea Barada, Callie Marie Barkley, Emily Berry, Kurt Bennett, Suzanne Berry, Matthew Bianchi, Marissa Bianchi, Kevin Bickford, Gary Binkowitz, China Boshao, Olivia Brackett, Julie Bradley, Genevieve Bergoli, Shannon Broderick, Alexandria Breutman, Matthew Bynack, Christopher Caldari, Edward Campbell III, Kristen Campetta, Stacy Canny, Kevin Carroll, Camille Cava, Joanne Cazorla, Samantha Saratelli, Brennan Chalmers, Stephanie Clark, Charity Clouden, Cullen Cockrell, Dylan Cohen, Shane Collins, Nicholas Colucci, Bonnie Conklin, Kellyanne Conlon, Michael Connors, Lisa Copeland, James Corey, Mary Rose Corrado, Dominic Coviello, Lindsay Craig, Victoria Rachel Jude Cribbs, Lauren Dallow, John Daly, Zachary Daly, Jennifer Davis, Christopher Davis, Nicolette DiBernardi, Caitlin DeBlois, Ryan DeCosta, Amanda DeLea, Nicholas Dench, Allison Day, Maria DeSalvo, Benjamin Dias, Ashley DeFranza, Raquel Doring. Raquel is the recipient of the 2014 President's Scholarship Award as well as the 2014 Alumni Association Academic Achievement Award for the School of Communications. Raquel pursued a concentration in media studies and graduates with a 4.0 GPA. Upon graduation, Raquel will attend the Seton Hall University School of Law. Raquel is from Bayonne, New Jersey, and is joined on stage by her parents, Mary and William. Jenna Dola, Christopher Doman, Natalie Donaldson, Elisha Dorsey, Shane Doyle, Chelsea Drabeck, Mackenzie Dre, Kelly Dubinsky, Kelly Duffy, Ashley Dugan, Marina Dugan, Jean Dunn, Connor Dwyer, David Etter, Matthew Eisenberg, Christina Elia, Fahum, Kimberly Fanch, Nicolette Finelli, Gina Faustini, Ellen Fetterman, Michael Fishman, Angelique Fisk, Marisa Fleischacker, Katrin Flynn, Kristen Foley, George Fracas III, Cynthia Francois, Richard Funaro, Danielle Gagliardi, Laura Gallucci, Grace Garcia, Amy Rose Gardner, Lauren Geary, Ruchi George, Kara Gilmartin, Rachel Gerard, Jonathan Glass, Lindsay Godwin, Olivia Golia, Robert Grant, Stephanie Ann Griffin, Molly Grosso, Kelsey Guthrie, Haley Guzman, Matthew Harkins, Taylor Harris, Christina Hartnack, Marcus Haroon, Emily Hauser, Jacqueline Hout, Carrie Ann Healy, Michelle Herman, Patricia Hibner, Shawana Hillwaite, Marissa Himble, Megan Hoffe, Brittany Holmes, Rona Horowitz, Johnny Houston, Emmanuel Howard, Kristen Impalaria, Ian Jackson, Julie Jarvis, Connor Jones, Brett Kozlowskis, Jessica Kelly, Stephanie Clausen, Stephanie Kucharski, Nicholas Custis, Talia Landry, Jessica Lehman, Michael Levine, Alexa Linden, Christine Little, Ryan Litwin, Chelsea Logano, Jake Loskent, Brian McDuff, John Maggie, Mackenzie Malone, Andrew Mandarano III, Christopher Mann, Christopher Mannon, Aaron Mannix, Chelsea Marchetti, Victoria Marino, Joshua Mark, Leah Mark, Adam Martin, Elizabeth Martin, Caitlin Martin, Taylor Massey, Emily McDonald, Anya McKeever, James McLaughlin Jr., Christopher Mead, Christopher Meegan, Patrick Meehan, Brianna Mello, Alexander Miller, Benjamin Mills, Michelle Montero, Corey Morgenstern, Melanie Morse, Dina Marie Moss, Kathleen Murnane, Kristen Murphy, Timothy Murray, Louis Nikitas II, Molly Noonan. Molly will receive her degree from her mother, Mary Beth Noonan, a member of the Board of Trustees. Kevin Noonan, Jasmine Norman, Raylani Nyhouse, Erin O'Brien, Catherine O'Brien, Kothia Iloya Odaya, Ryan O'Grady, Carrie Ann O'Keefe, Natasha Pajovic, Devin Polito, Alyssa Palmer, Nicholas Palumbo, Ariana Paluzzi, Nicholas Pasacreta, Michaela Pascal, Jenna Peterson, Dylan Pendergast, Lauren Pernow, Christina Pizzagalli, Dylan Pollock, James Pontillo, Nicholas Puya, Brianna Quinn, Caroline Quirk, Nina Rampula, Danielle Reed, Susan Riello, Alexandra Rinaldi, Joseph Rodriguez, Catherine Rojas, Krista Ann Romano, Joseph Romano, Jessica Romano, Bria Rooney, Peter Rossi, Natalie Royals, Dion Rutherford, Mariel Sable, Michael Saka, Jordan Samuels, Brent Sanchez, Nicole Sandoli, Teresa Santos, Sky Santos, Timothy Schultz, Lee Schwartz, Heather Scott, Kelsey Scriven, Nicholas Serbinsky, Victoria Seggio, Emily Seibert, Tatiana Shamskosta, Kamakshi Sharma, Ryan Sheehy, Kate Sherry, Nicole Syberry, Jessica Simpson, Caitlin Smolin, Samuel Snow Cronin, Matthew Solomon, Edwin Stubbs Jr., Thomas Sullivan, Hillary Titus, Casey Tobin, Alina Torres, Brian Togus, Anthony Trahan, Alessia Tranfalia, Amanda Trikas, Abayua Uzamir, Thomas Valerio, Jason Vancura, William Vesio, Sarah Violet, Joseph Virgilito, Nicole Volpe, Anna Wagner, Megan Walsh, Danielle Waxman, Caroline Weinbach, Taylor West, Michelle Winters, Virginia Waraznik, Rachel Walensky, Scott Wong, Michael Wolfson, Lauren Yakonis, Elizabeth Yakas, Gina Yaden, Amy Lynn Zaremski, Jared Zellen, Joseph Zacco, Dylan Zukowski. Will the candidates for the degree Bachelor of Arts in Communications please rise? Mr. President, it's my honor to present the candidates for the degree Bachelor of Arts in Communications.
By the power vested in me by the Board of Trustees, I hereby confer upon you the degree of Bachelor of Arts with all the rights and privileges pertaining thereto. They sure can communicate.
It's my privilege to introduce Steve Mcspirit. Steve is a marketing major from West Windsor, New Jersey, and Steve will give the response of the class of 2014.
Hot. Thank you, Dr. Thompson. President Leahy, esteemed faculty, friends, family, students. It is one of the first things we learn as we enter this life. It is in the first chapter of every language textbook. It is such a basic component of speech, a cliche even, that we all learned from day one. Thank you. The phrase is a cornerstone of a functioning society. It is meaningful today, and it will be meaningful tomorrow. And this is the time to use it. Thank your family and loved ones, for they were instrumental in getting you this far. Thank your brothers and sisters. Thank the men and women that spend their time and effort to make your club or organization be the best it can be. And thank your community, the community that is Quinnipiac. This community, the students and parents and faculty and staff around you, this community has shaped every aspect of yourself. QU 101 had a purpose, and you've reaped its benefit, whether you have realized it or not. You are the individual in the community. You are the culmination of every single interaction that you have ever had with any member of the Quinnipiac University family. So thank your most difficult professor, because he taught you in one way or another that mediocrity will not fly in the real world. Thank your classmates, for they asked the right questions and made the right mistakes to make sure you learned everything that each of your classes had to offer. That girl from California, your classmate from Senegal, your next-door neighbor from Israel. Thank them today, because they brought their customs, their culture, and merge them with yours. And just look around you. Thank our Department of Facilities, no matter how long our winter is, for making this campus look like something out of a storybook. Now is the time to appreciate the tiniest of moments. Do you remember the time that someone held the door open for you from what seemed like across the quad, but it made your day? Do you remember the time that you took a plunge with a new outfit? That scarf or shirt that just seemed a bit too out there. And yet with just that one person's compliment, it is now the centerpiece of your wardrobe. Cherish the time that Java John said you had the most beautiful smile in the entire universe. He says that to everyone, but he meant it for you. Tomorrow, you will move on from this life. You will start your job and build a career. You may meet someone special and raise a family. You may travel the world, and you may do something completely different, but you will succeed in ways unimaginable to you right now. Quinnipiac will always be a part of you. You have invested 4 years of your life into this school, and it has given you worlds of memories, worlds of experiences. Freshman year may seem like a blur, but you will remember your time at Quinnipiac years down the road. Today, thank those around you for fulfilling their mission to give you more experiences than you can recall. And thank yourselves. You have made it this far, and you will write the next chapter in this life and the lives around you. You are an integral part of society now. Seize the opportunity. Thank you, Quinnipiac.
Thank you, Steve. Congratulations and best wishes to all of our graduates. Would everyone please rise? Would you please remain standing after the benediction until the platform party and all graduates have recessed. Following that, you are invited to join us in greeting the new graduates at a reception under the tents. And it is now my privilege to ask Pastor Andrew Ober, Protestant chaplain, to once again come forward and deliver the benediction.
Let us pray. Dear God, I pray that you would continue to watch over these graduates as they depart. Out of your glorious riches and through your power, strengthen them in their inner being. Sustain them, protect them, challenge them, and lead them to truth. May the class of 2014 be known for its desire not to be served, but to serve, and for the courage to live out their callings and to bring love, peace, and justice to a needy world. In your name we pray.